Hello Sarah, thank you for joining us at our World Oceans Day in our newsroom at the Dog Media Center here in Leicester with John Costa and me, Gerhard. And we are thrilled of talking with you. I believe you are a climate activist and a vegan as well. Can you introduce yourself a little bit? Talk about your background and how you came to what you are now.
Awesome. Hi guys, my name is Sarah. I'm a 15-year-old climate activist from the San Francisco Bay Area. I first started something's happening. Sorry about that. I first started climate activism when I was in 6th grade after learning about the climate emergency in my 6th grade science class and coming to this realization that our world really was falling apart, that plastics were destroying our environment, and that our global environment was dependent on the youth taking action to fight for climate justice. And from there, I began learning more about climate change, about the different ways that it was impacted by different human events and by different ways that our politics were influencing our environment. And I started taking part in the Global Fridays for Future movement when I met a girl named Alexandria Villaseñor in New York. And from there, I took that movement to my home community of the San Francisco Bay Area and began striking weekly in front of the San Francisco Ferry Building in San Francisco City Hall to call on the community to join me in taking climate action. And from there, I've become, a public speaker in my community, speaking up about climate justice and other climate justice and climate issues.
Well, Sarah, when did you get on this climate journey?
I think it first really started in that 6th grade science class, and the first, moment of understanding how influential I was and my generation was to this movement and to the climate movement, and understanding how much my life would change if we didn't fight for a solution right away.
Well, that suggests that you are in touch with Greta Thunberg and the Youth Climate Strike.
Yeah, of course. They're amazing people.
Yes, there are many amazing people. What today's World Oceans Day? What would you say? What is the state of our oceans today?
I live, a few miles away from the ocean, and going there, it's my safe spot. It's a beauty. It's, the real beauty of Earth and of nature, and knowing that by 2050, there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish. That's mind-blowing to me, and to realize that this thing I've always loved, that I've always counted on, may be gone or forever altered is beyond terrifying. And as someone who's always loved animals and been really in tune with nature, this is something that we need to fight for and we need to put above everything else, because this is our home, this is our environment, our world, and our ocean we wouldn't be here without it, and we need to understand that and fight for clean water and protecting our oceans.
Yes, I just read recently, if the oceans die, we die. There is a very intimate link between oceans and our life-sustaining support. Now, Sarah, what activities, we're just coming out of lockdown, what activities are going on in San Francisco?
Well, as far as environmentalism, I think that we are really the youth joining together to fight for better solutions. For example, PG&E, which was responsible for lots of the wildfires in California, they went bankrupt last year, and now our governor is bailing out the company, and the company is going to continue burning down California. So we, the youth, are standing up and fighting and pushing back against those companies because they are really responsible for the destruction of our environment, and we're standing up for new fossil fuel infrastructure that they're continuing to propose in our community, because with that, our community will continue being on the front lines of the climate crisis.
How much support do you have from people in general?
Well, I think a lot of people don't even know it's happening. A lot of this goes behind the backs of the average citizen. They're not aware that, there's going to be a new fracking site in California. They're not aware that PG&E is being bailed out by the government and by California. So I think once people start to really understand the total wrath of those companies and understand really what's going on, then they begin to show their support and they begin to stand up. But right now, a lot of people don't understand what's happening and aren't aware of it, especially during a pandemic where everything is already amplified and everyone's just trying to figure out ways to stay healthy and protect their families. I think there just needs to be more, community education and awareness around these issues in order to fight back and save our community.
Sarah, I've got a question for you. Today we've spoken to various activists across the world, and they talk about how they use social media to outreach and engage people in debate, but that kind of stuff. And whereas I kind of get the impression from you, it really is, from that climate strike on a Friday, it's that still talking to people, isn't it? It's being able to convince them face to face, that good old fashioned hustings or town halls as you have them over there, convincing people that they need to stand up and push back against a lot of these big businesses that are causing some of these issues. Is social media something that you use a lot for that, or is it more about getting people together for conversations?
I think it's very much both. What's interesting about social media is you can reach people all around the world. You can reach audiences you wouldn't normally get to speak to. But what's so important and unique about a in-person conversation is you're actually connecting with someone face to face. It's not an online screen or another kind of robot type thing. It's an actual human being, and you're making those connections face to face. And it's so much harder to deny our cause and not to want to get involved and stand up when you have a young person standing right next to you, pleading for you to help them save their future. And as incredible as social media is, there's this, connection that you can't deny, and this power that you can't deny when you have a group of people together in person, uniting to stand up and fight for justice.
Do you think your age is an advantage when you're talking to people?
It's interesting because
you're so passionate. That's the reason.
It's a two-way street. It's a two-way street. Sometimes I've had leaders say, "You're too young to know anything. You don't understand this crisis. You wouldn't understand anything. You don't have a PhD. You're not going to college." But at the same time, I think it's a unique voice, and you don't often hear from young people on these issues. You hear from the government and world leaders. But really, the young people have this different kind of tie to the climate crisis because it's directly affecting our futures, and we can actually kind of comprehend what our futures might look like if we don't fight for climate justice right now. So at the same time, it's also a way and an interesting new way to hear from young people, because it's not often a source that we hear from in, media and in global relations. So even though it can sometimes be belittling by leaders and by different, media outlets, at the same time, it's also a unique voice. And I've seen that youth have had a greater power because they are different, they're unique, and there's so many of us.
Do you see there being a real opportunity for your age group interested in this subject for being able to create new media, as in, a media that's about people and climate justice and things like that, and not that kind of top level corporate, everything's connected, and it gets heavily influenced by politics, for example? Are you hopeful as a 15-year-old? Are you hopeful in San Francisco that your generation can actually make this difference?
Definitely. I've seen, I've stood in those streets with thousands, hundreds, tens of thousands of people around me, and the energy that just reverberates around you, and seeing these people, it's insane. It's something that, most people never experience in their lives, and being able to witness that has, 100% made me guarantee that this will happen and that our young people have the power to change the world. It's happened in history before, even with the Black Lives Matter protests happening around the world, mainly run and organized by young people. We see the power that young people have and the influence that they have on their families and their community. I think that young people really will be leading this climate movement in the near future, because they already are, and continuing leading social justice movements.
Now, I think in 10 years' time, when you're 25 and we're watching you standing up in somewhere talking at a really important forum, that'll be amazing to think that we spoke to you when you were 15. Now my question is that in 10 years' time, do you think the next 10 years you should be talking to adults more about climate change, or do you think you should be making sure in education we're talking to younger people so that you're backfilling, if you like, some of the support that you're going to get? Because again, as you've seen, the older you get, the more you get influenced by the world around you. Now, whether that's earning money, whether that's politics, religion, any of these things that kind of shape your view as an adult, you have to be careful what you say. Whereas when you're 15, you turn around and say, well, you're not interested in what I say because I'm not an adult, so therefore I might as well just be honest with you. And that's why the truth tends to come out, isn't it? Do you think teaching younger people is more important than teaching adults about climate change?
For me personally, as a young person, I think the most influential way to make change is through funneling education and empowering our youth to take action, because they are the ones who will be leading the country in a decade, 2 decades. And right now, our current government and our current adult leaders aren't doing much to stop this crisis and to take action. So I think that it's most important to continue empowering the young people so that they can stand up and rise to defeat this global crisis. As far as the past few years, we've just seen the impact that youth can have on a global movement. We've seen what the Fridays for Future movement can do. We've seen what Greta Thunberg can do. And I think that the way that we're going to make the most change is by continuing to educate our youth and making sure that they have the resources to join a climate strike and to take part in climate action in the future, and making sure that we raise children and we get them prepared to be the next leaders of our world.
Great. To mind comes, how are your parents reacting to that? Are they on board?
Yes and no. I think they're very supportive of my actions and of my passion. On the other side, it's hard being a 15-year-old and just trying to do, dance classes, trying to go to a school party and that stuff when I'm so driven and focused on this cause and nothing else seems important to me. At the same time, I'm supposed to be going to school, and missing school on Fridays is not something that most parents are super excited about, not something that most teachers or school administrations are either. And I think it's been kind of balancing those two things out and figuring out the way that I can still have an impact while valuing my education and making sure that I'm able to still have, go to school and experience what a normal teenager would.
Do you think your involvement in the climate movement is having some influence on what you study and what you would do in the future as employment? Does it also make you think about that green energy, green ecology, that kind of green economy, if you like? It is an opportunity as well that, young people are well placed to be able to drive forward because they're starting to demand jobs that are sustainable and about the environment.
100%. I mean, one thing that I think is incredible about climate activism and youth activism in general is that it really teaches you how to be an adult, how to be a leader, because we're doing things that adults are supposed to be doing. We're learning how to fundraise, how to do community outreach, how to do public speaking. We're learning so many tools that are going to really help us in our careers and in our futures. And something that I think is so unique about activism is that you're really learning, how to work, how to be an adult, how to be in a organization and be a team player. And I think going forward, this climate movement has introduced a lot of young people to new career opportunities, green jobs, green energy. And I think it's going to be really apparent as this generation grows up and starts to go to college and graduating that there'll be a lot of demand for green jobs and green energy and for jobs that are influenced by environmentalism and by climate activism.
Sarah, my experience with the millennial generation, that seem to be not really interested. It's a generation Z, it's your generation who drive all that movement. Is that your experience as well?
I think millennials there's, some people who are kind of just more focused on themselves and growing as a person and discovering different things and growing up. But I think there is also a lot of young people who are really, really passionate about social justice issues and who maybe haven't yet been exposed to something that they're that passionate about. And I think that even speaking from before I started climate activism, I always knew that it was important to me. I always knew I wanted to do something about it. I just never felt like I could. I never felt like there was an opportunity for me to take action. And I didn't, because I didn't see a spot for me in social justice, in this activism kind of world. And I think that once we show youth that it's possible, that it's not dorky or, silly or something that is really, and I think what's interesting about social media is it's kind of making it trendy and fun, and that especially with climate strikes, there's music, there's dancing, there's people of all ages and of all different types of stereotypes and cliques and whatever you want to call it. And I think that shows that millennials are growing together, and that hopefully a lot of young people who maybe have showed resistance to that and who maybe haven't been super involved will start seeing that it's, threatening their future and that they need to do something about it.
So my final question to you, Sarah. Wow, I'm loving talking to you. This is amazing. If someone was watching this now who was 14, 15, what would you say to them has been one of the best things for you about being involved in climate activism? And secondly, what would you say to them to say to their parents when they asked them why they were interested?
I'd say that you have the power to change the world. You might not believe it, but take it from me that within you, you are unique, you are special, and you do have power, that your voice really does mean something. And as far as activism, my absolute favorite part of it is the community that you build, getting to meet people from different backgrounds. And it's like traveling the world. I've gotten to meet so many people and immerse myself in so many cultures and backgrounds. And that has really helped me grow as a person and discover who I really am and what I want to do with my life. So being able to discover the world and go so much beyond my little bubble of the San Francisco Bay Area has been probably the most beneficial thing to me from activism and from this climate movement. As far as, when you talk to your parents, when you're telling them, hey, I want to do climate activism, hey, I want to do something about this, I think you've got to make sure that you share with them that this isn't their choice, this is your choice. This is your future, your voice, and you can do whatever you want with it. Whether or not your parents support you, hopefully they do, that you have the power to change the world, and no one's going to get in your way along that journey.
Oh.
Wow. That's amazing. Thank you very much for answering. I feel you're very honest as well, and I think that's probably one of the reasons that you come across as being absolutely genuine and passionate about climate activism, is the fact that you're just being very honest, and that's what we need more in the world, isn't it? It's not adults wrapping it up in reasons why we can't do it. It's young people like yourself empowering other young people to ask, well, why can't we? Why shouldn't we? Why can't we be positive? Why can't we be hopeful? And then maybe not buying into some of the mainstream media narratives of being doom and gloom, and maybe creating your own narrative, you know, own that and start thinking about media and stuff like that and how you can actually put that out there as well. So thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. It's been amazing.
Amazing. I mean, I have to say, since I was a youngster, I was a revolutionary. I wanted to change the world ever since. But looking at the younger generation, I don't see that passion anywhere. But the even younger generation like you, I see that passion. That gives me really great hope. You got a little tear in my eye. Great.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes.
All right.
We'll be in touch in the future.
Awesome.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.